keeper. I have enough of a draft of my 2026 Pinterest board to print off some photos and put it in my journal, my 2026 Hobonichi weeks. I think I have far too many photos to be able to fit. So after our last conversation in my last video, I went back and had a look at my 2025 Travelers Company insert, and I did put my Pinterest board on what is the comparable spread to the yearly spread. It probably makes the most sense to do the same thing here. So I think I'm just going to do that. Let's do it. I feel paralysis. What am I doing? With how that turned out. Before I start unpicking this, I might just show you what on earth I'm doing. So I've clearly finished Miss Hazel and plus some. I have decided to unpick and restitch her blue dress, or the blue portions of her dress, because the thread that's called for is Weeks Dye Works. It's a highly variegated thread. The way that I stitched this, and because of the variegation, you can see the direction that I'm stitching, which creates this coloured pattern. When I was stitching it, I was aware that that was happening. I had a look at the model, and the model looks like it stitches with the threads going in a vertical direction, so the colour and the variegation went in a vertical direction. Despite the fact that all my other stitching was horizontal, I decided to try that stitching in a vertical sort of pattern and approach, and I ultimately really don't like it. To note, I have already unstitched or unpicked and re-stitched this side panel here, as well as this top panel here. So the only original stitching that's left now is this big panel here. Before I started unpicking it with you, I wanted to just show you what I was talking about. I ultimately decided I was going to be better off unstitching it or picking it and redoing it at this point than finishing it completely and still being unhappy with it, when at this point I could identify that I was already unhappy with it. So I am much happier with the restitch sections. I think maybe this is just a difficult colour to work with. I don't love it, but I definitely like it and prefer it over this vertical colouring, which is just really good learning. I knew that I was doing it at the time. I knew that it was something I was going to try. It's good to know that I think I ultimately do prefer horizontal stitching and horizontal colour variegation, but in particular that I prefer it all going in the same direction. This didn't take, the entire project took 10 days. It's not a particularly long stitch, so I don't mind so much unpicking this section, although this is probably the most time consuming section. This probably is about 6 hours of stitching, but that's okay. Miss Hazel is an FFO. The last time I spoke with you about Miss Hazel, I was unpicking and restitching her blue dress, and I'm really pleased that I did. I much prefer the way that her stitching is looking, or going in a horizontal direction, and I'm really pleased with her. I finished her as called for, so on the back is the linen, which is needle bling suede. She is filled with a finely ground walnut shell. The pattern didn't call for interfacing on the back of the linen, which I undenied about and decided that I would just follow the call for, given this was my first animal cracker and Stacey knows best. I think in combination with the finely ground walnut shells and not having an interfacing, she is quite soft. So she can't stand up in the way that I would hope, so she has turned into a lie down. I still really like her. I probably wouldn't have stood her up much anyway, but next time for my animal crackers I will be putting interfacing on the back and maybe using a medium grind on the walnut shells. Nonetheless, I am really happy with her. I also tend not to like overstuffing to the point where, she's really, really full, just because I prefer the width of kind of a medium filling rather than overstuffing and she getting quite wide. She was relatively simple to finish. A little bit of trial and error, given that I just hadn't made an animal cracker and I hadn't really sewn around curves, I suppose. So that was a little bit of trial and error, but we figured it out in the end, and I'm really happy with her. Her little heart accessory was very fiddly. So initially the pattern called for putting the ribbon on the outskirts and kind of doing a whip stitch to the back. So you didn't actually get to see the edge of the linen top and bottom. I initially followed the pattern and decided I would change it. So I undid it and made it more like a bit of a sandwich, which I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. It is glued down with just a normal glue stick, so I do wonder if I'm going to have to reinforce this at some point. But at this point it feels pretty sturdy. I've dropped it many times and it stayed intact, so I'm really pleased. I really like having her heart accessory. I think it really makes her little collection. I really love stitching Miss Hazel. I think she's my favorite stitch. Not so much FFO in particular, but the process of stitching her and her heart accessory was my favorite process. I really enjoyed it, despite having to unpick and restitch parts of it. I really enjoyed it. I did go antique shopping the other day and came across these bobbins, these wooden antique bobbins. And given I just finished Miss Hazel and animal crackers were on my mind, I decided to grab 2 of these so that way I can stitch Bobbin. So I've ordered the pattern of Bobbin. If you're not familiar, she is the little mouse that is FFO'd on one of these wooden antique bobbins. And she's holding a little needle. It also comes with a little pillow pin cushion, which I think I might do if I have enough fabric. I also had majority of her threads, so I was able to put that kit together really quickly. Since finishing Miss Hazel, I have started, and almost finished, the Stitchery Sisters Changing Seasons needle roll. I'm stitching this on the called for. This is from memory, this is on a 40 count linen as called for. I've got it, I mentioned it in my last video, I'm pretty sure. That's the back, that's the front. So as you can see, I've finished all of the trees and stitching on the inside of the border, and I have started the border on the left hand side. I am having trouble with this border, and so if you have any thoughts or recommendations, I welcome it with open arms. So the initial border calls for, it's all Wig Style Works, and it calls for red pear, which is the pink, it's like a dark pink, and then parchment, which is this almost, it's quite a sage light green. And so I initially stitched kind of this section in this combination and decided I wanted to change it. So at the moment this is stitched on with Carolina Cecil and, is this putty? What is this? No, bright leaf. So that's the red and the orange. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I think it'll get tied together when I put it all around and it ties in the red from the autumn tree. But at the moment, it just feels a little bit stark. It's a bit dark. So I'm also playing around with the idea of, what is this one? Putty. This is putty. Keeping the bright leaf, which is that orange, and replacing Carolina Cecil, which is the red, with putty, which is the green. And I wondered if that might be more complementary. I feel like those colors complement the pink well when we're looking at it from this side, but also with the winter tree. And then obviously I'm pretty sure this green is in both of these trees, so that would tie it in nicely together. So I'm thinking I am going to trial this combination on this side of the border and see which I prefer, and then worst case I will unpick and restitch this side. I'm reluctant to do it again just because I have stitched this, unpicked it and restitched it, and now I'm looking at unpicking it and restitching it a third time. But if I've learned anything, I'd rather do that process and unpick it as many times as I need to and restitch it so that I really love it. That's my plan today, and then hopefully I can finish this today. My order from A Stitch in Time, which has bobbin in it, is due to arrive in the next couple of days. So I anticipate I will probably start bobbin as my next stitch and go from there. I have kitted up a couple of other projects as well, so I will most likely haul that when it comes in. I have also, in the midst of all that, I did pick up the Gentleman Bunny again, which is my large project on Ada. It's a 14 count Ada. If you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, if you go back at a couple of my other videos, I've shown it and spoken about it a few times there. It was just a little jarring. I gave it a go for an hour or two and just really wasn't enjoying it, so I put it down and moved on. I would like to finish it at some point, but I'm also not in the business of making a craft into a chore, and that felt like a chore. So I've put it down. I'm not sure if I'm going to pick it back up anytime soon, but we will see. So that's my stitching updates. I'm really pleased. I've made some good progress, some good finishes. I'm enjoying the smalls. I am really wanting to start a sampler, like a bigger project that I can have on the go. I am having trouble locating linen, the called for linens. The sampler that I want to start needs quite a big piece of linen, and it's just been proving difficult. So I am hoping to start that soon. I would like to get a few works in progress underway. Just, you know, there's been moments where I've been working on this needle roll that I haven't quite loved the project, and I would have liked to have other projects on the go that I'm really enjoying. But at the moment I actually don't have any other projects that aren't either Christmas or my Ada cross stitch. So I would maybe like to work on that a little bit and build up some of my stash, particularly my cross stitching stash, my kit stashes. I know that completely contradicts what I said in earlier videos where I was like, I'm not going to keep a stash. I'm just going to, you know, kit up the projects that I want to work on, finish them, kit up. I'm starting to see the appeal of having a little bit of a stash. Nothing too crazy. As I've mentioned, I don't really have the room to be able to store a lot of stash, but a small stash and something that's quite intentional and meaningful and things that I will use, I think has some benefit. So we will see, but I have started building my stash, and there is a pretty good haul coming from A Stitch in Time, probably in my next video.